Hey, Eric Liebenhagen here, and thanks for tuning in to the Abundant O.D series where we highlight successful optometrists who are working to make a positive difference in the world and contribute to a greater good. In our episodes, we're getting to know the people behind the title, what makes them tick, the mission that they're working to serve. They say hindsight is 2020, and by listening to and learning from others' victories and their mistakes, you can speed up your own journey and live as an abundant OD. My guest today is Dr. Jeremy Fulk. Jeremy provides elite eye care to his patients at his practice in Fairbanks, Alaska, which he cold started just earlier this year in 2022. His mission is to bring state-of-the-art eye care to his small town community, and we'll be learning some more about that here today. Jeremy, thanks for joining me.
Hey, nice to be here, Eric. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is great. I've had the pleasure of knowing you for almost a year, right?
Yeah, coming up on a
So
year.
coming up
Yeah,
on that. So this has been great. It's been a great experience. Always look forward to our talks. Get us started and just tell us a little bit about your background and
sure.
how you got into this profession.
Sure. Well, I'm from Fairbanks, Alaska originally. So middle school, high school, college, and then I always wanted to do something medical. I knew I wanted to help people. But not necessarily did I want to spend every hour in the ER or, on call. And, I have a family and I like to spend time with them. So, as you can see, eye care was a part of my youth. And so I was in offices often. So kind of just gravitated towards it. And then one of my friend's fathers was an ophthalmologist, actually. And so I kind of just spent a lot of time around that family, and it piqued my interest. And so I, just put my head down during school and went after it. And I've been practicing. The plan was always to come back home because I love it here in Fairbanks, even if the winters are long and cold. And I've been back here for a good 7 years now practicing, and I just opened, like Eric said, this last year of cold, and it's been wonderful. So I couldn't ask for a better profession and business to own at this point, in my opinion. I am new to it, but it is going very well. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Very good. So we talked a little bit at the opening about your mission to bring state-of-the-art eye care and to your community. And your website boasts elite eye care as soon as you open
Yeah.
it up. Elite eye care in Alaska. Tell us more about that and the mission that you're looking to serve there.
Well, I think we wanted to be pretty straightforward, that we were trying to be very good at what we do and provide a very high level of service and quality, and we don't shy away from that. And so it's a big commitment and promise to make to the community. But I think we do our best every day to achieve that, and we want to, in this small community, be able to deliver care and service that you can go down to Newport and get there, just in an Alaska feel. So, our slogan that we created and we put up on the wall in front of all of our frames is helping our fellow Alaskans see Alaska more clearly. And it's about being local, but not being limited at the same time. So, and that's kind of what we want here. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I tend to see. Well, first off, how has I kind of know the answer, I think a little bit, but how has the reception been to the that you mentioned this outward claim of not shying away from being great at what you do,
Yeah.
and I know you're fulfilling on that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be as successful as you have been this far into your practice ownership. But tell us a little bit about that, about the reception. Do you think it really helps attract patients to you, that vote of confidence, or what are your
Well,
thoughts?
I do think so. I think we've had great reception. I mean, amazing reception from the community. When people are searching for people, a professional or professionals to help them care for their most precious sense, their vision. There's a lot of anxiety that goes into that, and that level of trust to deliver to somebody is huge, and I totally get that. And so we want to attract the people who are really looking for the best, and we try to be the best. And I think it gives each side this expectation that we're going to do everything we can to be top of the line in everything we deliver, and we expect you to expect that of us, and we're going to do our best to try to achieve it. And as for reception, yeah, I think we've just hit 100, well, on our 6 month we were open for business for 6 months on May 2nd. Doors open, and we had a 100, technically 101 five-star reviews and no others. So now we're at 103 and climbing. So I think people are really liking it. I understand that, and the metrics aren't just about reviews online, but it is a factor. We like to see that people are happy and generally enjoy their time here. And we really focus on their time here. And, two of our core values, we have three. I speak to every employee, and we always want to be achieving for ourselves in the business, at highest level. So, pushing our boundaries and making sure we're as much as we can be. And then also focusing on the patient experience and being differentiated there, which I think people are really, really appreciated and gravitated to. So I think that speaks to a lot of my marketer success too, who happens to be my wife, who is an amazing artist. And so I think things are going well. So
very good. Very good. Yeah, the reason I asked that is just because, the way you expanded on it was great, by the way. And so I appreciate that. But I seem to, I've seen this over a lot of different service industries, but, particularly some more with some medical practices where we don't necessarily see that, like, the level of confidence pulled through or pushed through on the website. I mean, they're all kind of like, a lot of them kind of get this, like, they're kind of static and similar canned sites, and meet us and we'll give you great service, and you know what I mean. It's just like, you start to see a theme after you look at a lot of websites.
Sure.
And so and I'm talking about optometrists. I'm talking, accountants are notorious for being have poor websites, so not me but others. So so it's like, I get it. It happens in a lot of industries, but I think sometimes people's personality types play a big part into that when you're approving things that get put out in the forefront. And so you mentioned your wife is helping you with almost all of your marketing, right? She's like your outsourced marketing director of sorts. And just out of curiosity, like, did she have to, was that your idea to put that slogan out there, or did she kind of have to encourage you to put it out there like that?
No, so we tandem well together because, that's me, delivering the elite, the top tier, the best, we want to live up to those things. And that's always been what I've wanted to do. She has filled everything that I maybe thought I knew or kind of had a grasp on, and I really had no idea. And so she has really kind of created this image for our group here that matches what I'm trying to deliver. And I think I would have fallen somewhat short on the projection of that if I wouldn't have, if I just put those out there and then, don't have the branding that she's created for us type of thing. And, that consistency and feel and advertising has kind of melded very well with that. But still, you can tell we're local. So it's both. She pushes me, I push her, and we're a good team. So I'm lucky to have her. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So what a lot of us have, of course, we are into patient and client care, and we want the best for the people that we're serving. What I find a lot of times is that business owners have a bigger reason, or a why, if you will, a bigger reason why they do what you do. What would you say that is for you?
Well, I think there's a few. I think the big one and probably a very common one is just I love helping people. People come to me for everybody has a problem or an issue, and I'm going to help them do that, whatever that is, whether it's they are losing vision from a debilitating disease, or they just having trouble seeing their screen. So helping that person and getting that improvement in their life is huge to me. And then I'm in Fairbanks, Alaska. I think a broader one that I have to work up to is mission trips. So there are a lot of groups that will get to a certain level and are able to go to mission trips across seas and things to places that are underserved. But in Alaska, there's quite a few places in Alaska that do get care, but just there's just not as much resources. Just the people are spread thin. So one of my big goals is to grow this practice so that we can start doing, quote unquote, mission trips to these villages. And that's kind of in the name, the Yukon. It's a very specific name to the Yukon River up here, which is just north of us. And there's a good population up there that just doesn't see a lot of medical professionals. So eventually that's the goal, is to try to get some of that outreach to those communities, so that we can better serve them at the same level of care that you would get here, expanding that elite eye care for Alaska across true Alaska. So it takes a bit. We're just, like you said, 6 months in, first getting things going and, filling the books and being steady. So eventually that's the goal. But I'd say those are two. And then just providing for my family, that's always number one, making sure that, they are happy and safe and, have a good outlook in their life and have opportunities. So that's a big, third driving force for why I do what I do. So.
Yeah, I think, that's, there's ever a recurring theme when I'm talking with optometrists, especially, even on these interviews, I've seen it, but also just out and about, is that whenever I ask that kind of question, we always get that people first mentality. Yeah. And I think, I've also been on the other side of that, not in these interviews and not necessarily to optometrists, which I think is why I get along so well. I've talked to accountants, and I'm sure there are a few. I mean, we have them all in every bunch.
Sure.
But, I've talked to other service pros that are like very much more self-centered, self-focused. And sure. It definitely shows in the, the overall experience and the results, and how much you're over time, how much you are, what do you want to say? How much you are enjoying your practice once it gets to any level, really, but especially when it gets fuller and busier and, it keeps growing. It's a huge factor that I see as a recurring theme. I'm kind of glad you led with that as well. I figured you would, but,
for sure.
Very good. So what has, I know you're early on in your practice ownership and your overall career, when you look at it relatively, but what have been some of the toughest challenges in kind of bringing some of your ideas into reality so far?
Well, there's a few. I guess they're very different from my previous practice, where I was in a large group and an employee, to being a practice owner. Obviously, practice owner is by far, the problems are more welcomed. There's more of them for sure, and they're different. And I'd say recently my biggest challenges is myself. Making sure that I don't have shiny ball syndrome, and make sure that I focus on things long enough, don't try to change too much, let things work well, and with a small staff and early on, it's difficult to do that. But you got to realize that, you're dealing with people who are, want to, have a consistent day-to-day thing, but, you always want to keep pushing the envelope and doing something better for the business. So finding a good balance on communicating my ideas and then not over communicating is been something I've been working on, and just maybe thinking through things for a few days before I deliver them to the team, and so we don't overwhelm them, which is been very, very much a learning curve in the past 6 months. Whereas my previous problems would be, wanting to do things, but not able to. There's certain things I want to implement. And I think that's a very common theme with most docs who are in a lot of fields, specifically optometry, who are employed. There's nothing against the people who are the employers. It's just like you said, I think the personalities come out in a practice. And I see that in my own town. I know the individuals are small and we get along very well, but you can see that personality and what that person's about in their practice. And so, that was probably the biggest challenge, which obviously is not as much of a challenge at this point because it is my own practice, but controlling myself and understanding limitations and timing has been a big factor in the past 6 months. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, that first off, that kind of self-awareness is huge, that you're able to have that. Excuse me. But then the other thing, is I totally get it in terms of of, especially, okay, let me back up for a sec, because I got a little bit excited and ahead of myself. As you're moving from, that's a common theme, no matter, like I said, it's not employer specific, no matter the prior employer, there's always usually something in that practice or in that job that you wish you could change and can't. And that's what drives a lot of people, one of the factors, at least, to drive people to start their own practice, their own business, is that they want to do things their way, by their standards, and provide an experience what they envision. And so kind of going from, I kind of envision this going from not really, okay, it's a metaphor, it's going to be a bad metaphor because I'm bad at metaphors off the cuff, but it's kind of like going from a shackled, like your hands are shackled position, to now where we're free and are like, we're trying not to be over ambitious, right? And get it all done all at once. So what kind of things have you, well, you kind of talked about some things to keep that in check, but I envision some sort of, like, have you plotted out, and probably continually refine, but do you plot out some sort of like goals or a roadmap, or do you kind of refine that like quarter by quarter or month by month to kind of keep those things in check, measure what's working, and just build off of what you have going on? Or how does that?
It's very fluid, and I keep implementing, which is part of the issues, is implementing new timing for reviews. And so I read a lot of books on business, and one of my mentors, Lori Sorensen, was able to graciously grant me her book list, and one of them was the EOS operating system, and I tried to implement that right away. And it's a great operating system, but I think it was just a little early. So our frequency of meetings was too much for the patient loads. It's like, we don't have that much to talk about yet. And you've got these ideas because you're not busy yet. And then so as time went on, I realized that was too much. It was a weekly meeting, a morning huddle every day. And so it was good for communications purposes. But then as we got into it, we've slowed that down to more of a natural check-in process. So I check in with the staff every day. I check in with my clinic administrator every day, but it's not these formal meetings. And then we'll have more of a formal meeting, probably at least once a month, if not twice a month, depending on how many new things are happening. If we're getting new contracts and implementing new systems. And of course, we probably have a little bit more that month to go over than the prior month. Like this month, we're going to be implementing some new things. So we're going to probably need to meet a little bit more. So it is very fluid. And we try to do at least monthly, I'd say, is the standard of reevaluating things. My wife and I do a lot of dreaming and talking. And so that's very much where we get the outlet of, all those shiny balls that we're trying to chase. But we're trying to implement like a 24 to 48 hour rule. If you have an idea, wait on it. Just, is it still a great idea in 24 hours or 48 hours? And then go back to it. Am I the best at that yet? Definitely not. Patience is not my strong suit, and I will admit that right away. But we're working at it, and we're nailing things down as we go. We probably will be, and I've realized that probably will be doing this refining for years, if not forever, doing these businesses.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. The fact also that you have, a very, well-stated like vision and mission for your practice, and you have a clear idea of where you want to take it, I presume would help you kind of measure up some of those ideas. I think you were starting to mention that, kind of measure up some of those ideas that are coming to see if it really fits with the overall vision of where you're taking the practice, right? And sometimes we do need a day or two, or some downtime to be able to see whether or not that really fits. So you finding that to be true?
Yes, for 100%. Yes. I mean, we started that way from the beginning. I spent a lot of time just, deciding, what our mission, what is, and being very, very, not just cliche, but sticking to that, and really making sure that we communicate that to everybody. And so I think that gave us direction, and it's, we have an overall direction, which I think has led to quick success overall, but then, we kind of have to steer it a little bit as we go, but, still heading in that same direction has been key. So getting that foundation of just thought process and things on paper and talking things out loud and branding, and just the simple things like names, just Yukon Eye Care Professionals, trying to say what we want to say in that name and portray the image to the people. So starting at the beginning gives a good jumping point, and then of course as things start working well, you get excited and you want to continue, and how much, what can we do here? So that's it becomes more of an entity of its own, and so you have to kind of let it be that sometimes, and that's what I'm finding just recently this past month or two. So learning as I go. So
yeah, for sure. But no, that's great. I mean, I think in terms of a lot of that, the branding, but especially like the vision and the mission and all of those things we're just talking about. A lot of times, what I find with some business owners, and I can recognize it easily because I used to be one of these.
sure.
Early on in my career, like I did not have that all fleshed out to the level that I do now. When I first opened my doors, however long ago that was, 12, 13 years ago, in this practice. And so, because at the time, right, like I had a very different experience, came out of an employer, a job where, well, I'd had several jobs between college and starting this practice, and none of them really focused on vision, mission, where we, who are we as a company, those values, core values, and you mentioned those earlier, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, some people, like when I was younger, coming out of college, and then not seeing, like, we get the business courses; those are required, and we take those and we see, like, oh, these are things that large companies do. Great. And then we get into the small business world and they're like, well, none of them, my perspective was, well, nobody's doing this out here. So it's just a thing for big companies. And that's kind of the belief I carried for a number of years until I got to my own practice. That's why I didn't have them from day one. And then I had a business coach come in and was like, have you done this? I'm like, no, it's just something big companies do. And it's kind of, any other time I've seen a small employer do it, they were kind of like, nice to have to throw on a website or put up on the wall, or, a letterhead or whatever else. And I was like, but no, these things really mean something and start to form, like you said, that entity of its own that starts to gain traction more so than what you could probably do just on your own without all of those elements in place.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's extremely important. You can be successful the other way, just not nearly as much, and it just sets the tone for the future. So yeah, I 100% agree. Having those cliche things they say, and I know I don't take a lot of credit for it because it's not like these are my ideas. I've always been a proponent of just going to people who are smarter than you and have done things before you. And that's what I did. That's why I reached out to you, frankly, because of Mick, and conversating with Mick Kling, who is very successful down in San Diego, and then going to meetings down in Houston and listening to these seasoned people who have done what I'm about to do, what I'm about to endeavor on, but they have done it for a decade or two and have had overwhelming success comparably to their peers. And it's like, well, how do they do it? And these are the things that, these daily things, focusing on the details is what I got out of it. So I twisted to my, tweaked it to my own flavor, I guess, and in my direction and my passions of things, but try to, keep as much as there as possible. So,
for sure.
So thank you to my mentors, including you. So appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I know you've dropped a lot of great, meaningful experiences and advice here throughout the course of this interview. But in wrapping up, is there, in kind of in summation of all that, is there a single piece of advice you'd give to others on their journey who, whether they're just starting out or they've even been in practice for a number of years and are kind of feeling stuck, or maybe didn't have some of these elements? Anything else you'd like to share about a piece of advice?
Yeah, I think having both sides of your business in mind all the time. It's a cliche thing that everybody says, but you have the why. Like you're saying, why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? That part, and then not just being emotional about it, but look at the other side and make sure that you do be realistic about books and understanding profit decisions and allocations. So I think that implementing the right financial schemes is imperative to support that passion. But having both sides, know your why, and then make sure you check the backside to make sure that you're going to be able to support that why and move forward. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
For sure.
As much as I can 6 months in. So.
Well, very good. Well, as they say, I think today your 2 cents is worth a lot more. I don't know what the saying is. It's worth your weight in gold, probably, because that's great. So no, it's awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Jeremy. I really appreciated your time, and I know you're a super busy guy building up this growing enterprise of yours. So thank you a lot, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Eric. This is great. I appreciate it.
You bet.